downtown. The whole thing on...
Welcome to ReligionWinked TV, where my spiritual ears stand.
Point blank range. He's recovering from surgery tonight. Gunfire rings out again in South St. Pete, a neighborhood that's hurting after yet another shooting. Investigators trying to figure out why and how it took a turn for the worse.
Well, that's not
to give you an idea of where we are talking about, the shooting happened around the 1400 block.
We're basically going to go ahead and do
that's in the area just south
quick
of downtown.
Recap
the whole
of Dominique
just after 4:15 this afternoon in the parking lot.
This allegedly went down December 2nd.
Our Mara is live tonight near the scene. Our Bo Zimmer also covering this for us. He is outside of Bayfront Hospital, where one officer has been in surgery tonight. But we will start with Emerald, who's got the latest information from investigators. What can you tell us?
History with the police. Go ahead, put your feet up. That's my chair. That's not me, guys. I seen a woman do a video. And she was like, did so-and-so pass gas on camera? The things we make videos about, right? I know, I've done some crazy ones myself. But anyway, this guy here, we're just basically going to finish up part 3, and then we're going to go ahead and move into something else, guys. It is what it is. Alright, so this guy, Dominique Harris, 20 years old, allegedly fired at the police officer 4 times, hitting one twice, wounded him, hospitalizing that one, and then they fired 50 shots and ended his life. Now, as we found out, and this cheese is so good, y'all. As we have found out in that one particular video I did, part 1 and part 2, that he was wanted for child abuse charges. And what we found out was he had body slammed a 15-year-old. So they wanted him. Not only that, they had wanted him for a 2019 alleged murder that may have happened to this young man right here. He might have been involved with, I believe his name is Marquis Scott. And that you can find in part 2. Now part 3, I want to pick up from where we left off. In part 2, we talked about how Dominique may be in connection with Marquis's murder. But then it also says in part 2 that Marquis, this young man right here, may... Oh, hold on. This young man right here may be involved with a shooting that left someone paralyzed. There's a lot going on down in St. Petersburg, Florida. And there is a report out where a grandmother comes forward and just basically says she has enough. You know, she saw way too many murders. There was 7 in November. And 3 people had passed away in that episode of shootings. And she just says she's sick of it. So if I can pull that video up again, I'll read you some of what she said as well, alright? So now, in September, on the year anniversary of his death, meaning this guy's death right here, we're going to pick up from here to kind of tie into part 2. It basically says his family held a vigil because of his death and some of the surrounding shootings that's been going down in St. Peter's. Going down in St. Peter's, right? So basically, it goes on to say, to remember Scott and the city's other victims of gun violence, this vigil took place. They also pleaded for someone to come forward and provide information in their son's death, because they basically think that Dominique Harris, the one who was just killed by the police, shot at 50 times, hit at least 38 times, had something to do with their son's murder, right? So it goes on to say, Scott's parents said late Thursday that Harris's death and a possible connection to their son's murder has left them conflicting with emotions. Like, damn, I know your life is gone, bro, but I feel you have something to do with my son's murder, okay? Let's just keep it simple. Let's just keep it real. They want to mourn his death, but they also want some vindication and validation and answers to see if that young man had anything to do with their son's death. It's kind of like, yes, we want to mourn for you, but we also think you have something to do with our son not being here. So, it basically goes on to say, listen, I want y'all to hear this. It says Harris was a person of interest in the death of Marquis Scott, a 20-year-old Northeast High School graduate who was fatally shot while riding his bicycle in front of his grandmother's house September 17, 2019. So this September 2020 made a year anniversary for the family coming out, right, and doing a vigil. Scott's parents told the Tampa Bay Times last year they believe their son's death was connected to the November 2018 shooting that their son took part in that left the man paralyzed. It's all revenge. It's all revenge killing. There's a lot going on. Alright. So, it basically goes on to say that the police department is doing what they can to try to solve this thing. So it was some encouragement, said Father Maurice Scott, but at the same time, another child lost his life, and the whole family is about to endure what we went through. And I'm telling you, we don't know what people go through when they lose loved ones to shootings unless you actually been through it. I've had family in my family shot, absolutely. In my immediate family, brother, sister, mother, father, like that, grandchildren, no, but cousins and things of that nature. Matter of fact, a dude I used to date got shot. He's still alive though. He got shot, let's see, I don't know, 6 to 8 months now, maybe. I'll have to figure it out when I'll ask my daughter and see when it actually happened. But it goes on to say, the city spent Thursday grappling with the aftermath of the shootout before the sheriffs released new details about the incident. So this article was written on December 20th, and I do believe that was the Wednesday that this shootout took place between Dominique Harris, a 20-year-old, down in St. Petersburg, Florida, with the police. I call it the war on black men, and sometimes men war on themselves. Let's be real. Black crime against black crime, but there's the men in blue against the men in black, okay? And a lot of people in the black are losing their lives. Right, wrong, or indifferent, police are being aggressively abusive with the power they have, not only to carry a gun, but to use it or to misuse it, right? So basically, it goes on to say, Earlier that afternoon, St. Peter's Police Chief Anthony Holloway asked residents to stay calm and to wait for the facts to come out, because, again, a lot of people rush to judgment. A lot of people don't know what happened, and we automatically want to jump to police brutality, which 9 times out of 10 it is that case, and or poor decision making by the men police are apprehending, such as this young man, only wanted at this particular time because he body slammed a 15-year-old. But knowing his past criminal history, and I do believe this is the account that gives it, once you're apprehended by police and you have things in your past, you're attached to this child abuse, you're attached to a murder from the year prior, you may be linked to this young man's murder, which I think they're referencing to Marquis Scott. You once you get apprehended and closed in, like they had barricaded him at the Food Max, you tend to start shooting to get your way out of the situation. Is that right to do? Hell no, it ain't right to do. Absolutely not. It's not right to do. But do people do it in fear of going to prison? They rather die by suicide at the hands of the police than actually go to prison. Okay? And also it basically goes on to say that Chief and Mayor Rick Kreisman spoke outside the St. Petersburg Police Department headquarters downtown, and you can kind of see that picture there, right? Then it goes on to say, nobody wants to hear about progress when one person is in the hospital and another in the morgue, he said. Uh-oh. And that's absolutely true. I believe it's the black man speaking on behalf of righteousness. Nobody's trying to hear it. At the end of the day, people are like, and there's some witnesses, testimonies and accounts that this is crazy how overboard the police go. And when you're in a public setting like that, police need to be taught to stand down sometimes. As long as this person ain't shooting at you or putting your life in danger, you need to stand down and stop being so damn aggressive in the public, because you're at harm. I mean, you're at risk of hurting other people and putting the rest of the public in danger, right? So, thank God for this man right here. I do want to say he may be the chief. What is the chief's name? There's no name of the chief right now, but I believe Chief Anthony Holloway is his name. Chief Anthony Holloway. And it's kind of weird. We have black officers that somehow can't get it to where black people police black communities, white people police white communities. If you don't live in the community and you go to police it, you don't know the neighborhood and the characteristics there of the people. But people who live in that community who become police officers absolutely would, you know? And no, nobody wants to live in crime-filled neighborhoods, but the reality of it is, some of us, like, I'm still in the hood, not that much crime where I live per se, but it's still crime-filled. We have to live here in order to set an example for those that don't know any better. So it's good to see that a black police officer is in charge and saying nobody wants to hear about progress when one person is in the hospital and another person is dead. That is not progress. And generally, it's always the white person spared their life, per se, and a black person's life is always taken beyond measure. 50 times shooting at one man and he only shot 4 times. I'm just saying. The playing field was not fair. Regardless of who shot first, go watch part 1 and go watch part 2 to figure out how we got here to part 3. But Anthony Holloway is saying, you know, hey, enough is enough. So it says St. Peter's Mayor Rick Kreisman left and Police Chief Anthony addressed the media on Thursday after authorities said a child abuse suspect was killed by police after shooting an officer. And that whole child abuse automatically gives you the stigma he was fondling children or being sexual in some sort of way to the children. And all he did, not all he did, but he body slammed a 15-year-old child. Now, sometimes these 15-year-olds got a lot of mouth. They got a lot of body. They might have been out there playing around, whatever. He's 20, he's 15. I'm not really sure, but it's not child abuse where he was messing with little kids or being inappropriate in some way. Yes, it may be inappropriate to body slam a 15-year-old, but I don't know the story and the accounts behind it. I don't want to judge here. All I want to say is sometimes 15-year-olds, and they got big bodies, nowadays. I don't know what's in the milk. I don't know what they giving out at WIC. I don't know what's on the food stamp card in the pantry. I just don't know. But these kids are big, right? And it's like, okay. Y'all get what I'm saying, right? I don't know what happened, but the 15-year-old reported it to his parents. Hopefully they pressed charges, and that's how he was being wanted and pursued for the child abuse, okay? So, Holloway's comments were the first time the public had heard from the chief since the shooting. Residents took to social media to express confusion as to why Holloway hadn't spoken out about the incident. Sometimes it takes a moment to gather your thoughts, to pray. What do I say not to offend the white community or the police, such as myself? And what do I say not to offend the black people, such as myself? And what he came out and said, we read it up here, was nobody wants to hear about progress when one person is in the hospital and another one is dead in the morgue. On days like yesterday, it doesn't matter what we've accomplished or how safe St. Pete's is. You can see him saying that right there. Alright. So let's carry on because it does get interesting. I'm going to let you hear some clips about what's going on.
Of downtown. The whole thing on...
The shooter is dead. 2 officers hurt. Investigators say one of them shot at nearly point-blank range. He's recovering from surgery tonight. Gunfire rings out again in South St. Pete, a neighborhood that's hurting after yet another shooting. Investigators trying to figure out why and how it took a turn for the worst.
To give you an idea of where we are talking about, the shooting happened around the 1400 block of 18th Avenue South. That's in the area just south of downtown. The whole thing unfolding just after 4:15 this afternoon in the parking lot of a food mart. Our Emil Morrow is live tonight near the scene. Our Bo Zimmer also covering this for us. He is outside of Bayfront Hospital where one officer has been in surgery tonight. But we will start with Emerald, who's got the latest information from investigators. What can you tell us?
Yeah, Carolina, this all started when police were looking for a man on child abuse charges. And according to the sheriff, they say that police in St. Petersburg were looking for 20-year-old Dominique Harris. They say he faced felony charges for body slamming a 15-year-old during a fight. Now, according to the sheriff as well, police found Harris along 18th Avenue South outside of the Food Max. They tried to get him out of the car, and when he refused, the sheriff says police broke the windshield. It was then that Harris allegedly backed up into the cruiser behind him and then tried to speed off, but officers surrounded him. That is when the sheriff says Harris pulled out a semi-automatic weapon and shot a detective in the lower body. From there, a witness at the scene says everything turned chaotic with dozens of shots fired. Another witness says Harris's younger brother came out of the Food Max store to find his brother dying.
I can hear his brother, he behind me. He's screaming and he's hollering. Well, that's my brother, y'all.
Other officers continued to fire because Harris continued to be a threat. He continued to point his firearm at the officers and was continuing to fire.
Now, the thing to remember here is that this is an active investigation.
So, again, The chief noted that his agency is not involved in the investigation, so he doesn't have to come out and defend anything. And that's true. Sometimes we hold accountable the people that's not even responsible for doing the crime. But everybody, just like the children of Israel, when one tribe or person do something wrong, it's like sometimes God holds us all accountable, all right? Because we should know better by now. We should know better to do better. And unfortunately, God's people in America don't want to do better, okay? For the most part. So it goes on to say they have the use of the Deadly Force Investigative Task Force, a new program where county law officers, agencies band together to investigate officers' use of force. Which, again, there's a lot of abusive entitlement, I call it, and that's when police abuse the power to carry a weapon and use force, aggressive, overly force, that they shouldn't be, right? So let's see if we can hear this. Oh, hell no, it's 13 minutes long. Oh, hell no. No. 13 minutes long, y'all. I refuse. That's 13 minutes long. Alright, so maybe on the edit I'll put some of it in there, but it's 13. Alright, so they're talking 13 minutes long. I am not going to sit here and listen to that. I want to keep going through the story. This is the video I was going to try to show you guys. This article is in the Tampa Bay Times. Man killed by St. Petersburg police. Alright, man killed. Man killed, because it is true. Whether he shot first or not, the statement is true. A man was killed by the police department yet again. Overly aggressive. 4 shots was fired from the deceased young man. 50 shots from the police officer. It's ridiculous, guys. Nobody should be out here shooting anybody. Use your words. I mean, if we didn't break crimes, the police wouldn't come after us. And police, if we do break crimes, there's no need for you to killing us like in the George Floyd case, okay? That crime did not warrant death. You guys think every little thing we do warrants death, okay? And that's not the truth. No. So it basically just says the 20-year-old was accused of picking up and body slamming a 15-year-old at a city basketball court in October. Holloway said the child was treated at a hospital for bruised ribs and his parents wanted to press charges, as I said, right? St. Petersburg Special Investigations Unit, also called SIU, is an undercover team that surveils and captures habitual offenders. They spotted Harris at the Food Max grocery store on 1401 18th Ave South and called in uniformed officers to confirm his identity. Now, the other report said that the 6 officers involved were unidentified police officers. They were working undercover, okay? And some of them have been alleged to crimes themselves or to police-involved shootings, okay? So go watch the first 1 and 2 videos, part 1 and 2 of this. Dominique Harris. And then I think the title says The War Continues in Florida, part 2. But it goes on to say Harris showed the officers his ID but refused to leave the car and instead tried to ram his way out of the parking lot, the sheriff said. And again, when we as black people get backed up against the wall, right, wrong, or indifferent, some people want to fight their way out instead of just surrender. Again, it has to do with what could we do to get our men not to be out here breaking the law in George Floyd's case as a grown man. And what could we do to kind of resist the cruel and inhumane treatment the police has been giving to us, right? So it goes on to say he shows his ID. Now, earlier reports didn't say it was even this much close contact. I mean, for what it was, when the police was asking for his ID and he showed the ID, they could have slapped a handcuff on him right then and there and called it a day, right? I don't know how it transpired by him showing the ID and then trying to take off, but this is what the account is saying, okay? Excuse me. So it goes on to say, the sheriff said Thursday that Harris has an extensive criminal history and was once monitored by a program for repeat juvenile offenders. So it looks like this guy had a history for only being 20 years old. I told you by the time I was 19, I was looking for that saving grace, okay? If not, I probably could have turned out just like Dominique Harris here, with an extensive long record. Alright, and I tell you, the worst criminals are the ones who haven't been caught yet. At least us who have been caught, did our time, went to prison, whatever have you, any rehabilitative programs, we have an opportunity to change. People who aren't, criminals who aren't caught are still out here breaking the law, violating your rights and things of that nature. So it goes on to say, we're going to read this whole little thing here and go from there. Okay, guys? So Harris was 14 when he was first arrested in 2014 on charges of carjacking without a weapon, reckless driving, and leaving the scene of a crash involving property damage, according to state records. In 2015, he pleaded guilty to reduced charges of grand theft auto and misdemeanor battery. Records show, and the adjudication was withheld. Okay. He was arrested several times since on charges of throwing a deadly missile into a vehicle or dwelling, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, armed burglary, criminal mischief, and violation of juvenile probation, records show. Now, this was enough to detain him for a little while. Try to get him some help. Somehow he got out in order to shoot at the police this year, okay, and to lose his life. Last year, Harris was 19 when he was arrested in June on charges of burglary. In October on a charge of fleeing and eluding an officer. In the fleeing incident, he's accused of failing to stop for a police officer, instead speeding through stop signs and then trying to run away before being captured by a police dog. This was a year prior to him being 20. This was another opportunity to sit him down, get him some help mentally, ban his driving privileges. I don't know. People with the mindset of being a criminal has a way of breaking the law and getting around the law, and just they have this I don't care attitude. F the police, they can't do anything to me. And it says he pleaded guilty in December 2019 and was sentenced as a youthful offender and given credit for the 52 days he spent in jail. See, personally, he didn't sit in jail long enough, okay? This 52 days being credit for all what we just read, he didn't have enough time to get it out of his system. He didn't have enough time to miss the streets. Now, I don't go for our men being locked up, but with this young man, and then some people are charged as a juvenile when they should probably be held as an adult, 16, 17, 18 going forward, they're out here doing adult crimes. I mean, but we want to pat them on the hand, and we want to try to make everything better with people. And the best thing you can do, and I said prison is not, it's just a modern day plantation. But he didn't have enough time to rehabilitate himself, if you ask me. He needed more time away from the things that was driving him to go down this road. Some residents who live near the Food Mart grocery store told the Times reporter Thursday that they were shaken more by the police-involved shooting Wednesday than the previous shootings in the area, which there was a lot of shooting going on from November to December of this year, I do believe, in 2020, where one woman said, a grandmother, I'm going to try to pull that article up, she was like, you know what, I'm sick of it. She went out to kind of protest, and she mentioned that 7 people were shot in November alone, and 3 people lost their lives, okay? So, it goes on to say, when the police are shooting at people, it's not safe no more. And I just was saying that earlier. They are out of control. Right? Said Jason Allen, 32, who lives nearby. That causes people to be scared of the police. Absolutely. They see you out there barraging 50 bullets into one man. Who's going to trust you? Or want to greet you at the outdoor picnic, county picnic or city picnic on your horse, while you out here shooting up the masses, being destructive. I do believe the police were put on leave of absence. You have to check the second part too, I believe. But it says Brandon Williams, 25, said he was confronted or confused while an officer was standing on top of a truck shooting at the victim. That was police brutality, he said, and I agree. That's my whole still. Police brutality. Right, wrong, or indifferent, police have a brutalness about them. They're the bold and the brutal, okay? And they have a brutalness about them when it comes to young black men. And there's a war going on against our men, against our community, and it's the men in blue against the men in black. And then the men in black have a war going on against themselves. Proper education, the right people, the right choice in decision making can help us ward the cops off of us just a little bit. Even if you doing right and do nothing wrong, the police still gonna pull you over and find a reason to assassinate you. Okay? If they can. So it goes on to say that the community's anger spilling out on Thursday, 8:30 a.m., St. Petersburg City Council meeting. Some of those who spoke were prominent voices during the past summer's protests against police violence and racial injustice. We all know about the young man in Jacksonville, Florida, who the police shot at 35 times, okay? And lifted his soul right up out of him as well, causing him to lose his life, okay, over a traffic stop. I don't really know all the details, but yes, this is happening around the world, okay? But I have to say here, remember in Jacob's case where he was walking to the car, he had his children in the car out in Portland, and he was reaching in the car, and the cop was trying to pull his shirt and pull him from reaching in the car, and shot in his back 7 times. That still doesn't give the police the right to overshoot somebody. Don't you think one shot would have been enough? More than enough? Like, hey, who's to say what he was reaching in that car for? And I know as a police, you automatically, they assume that they're going for a weapon or a gun or something of that nature. And it's not always true. And before they know it, before you know it, police like, oh, I found the gun in the car. Oh, we found this in the car.
Explained it to them. showed them a photograph of the gun with the shell casing there, so that they can understand.
With these undercover police and as shady as they've been, you don't know if they're setting these people up along the way, okay? So just be mindful of that, guys. So yesterday represents a police failure, a systems failure, and a community failure. And I agree. Even if the man shot at the police first, the police are in more of authoritative power, more in an authoritative role to see the situation clearly. Remember, they got the weapons, so it's like they're the ones in training how to deal with the public and how to deal with criminals, and it's like their emotions or their feelings are getting in the way. And what I said earlier in one of those videos is that they hear about all the other shootings that go on around the world, cop versus whoever, cop loses life, and they hold that personally. They hold that as a grudge. So Harris's family gathered at Bayfront Health in St. Peter's and spent hours waiting for the word of his medical condition. Check this out, guys.
Officer. At the opposite entrance, the grandmother and loved ones of the 20-year-old shot by police.
No one has said anything to ourselves. We just want to know what his condition is.
Around 8:30, Pinellas Sheriff.
The poor communication these assholes have with the family, right? Because it goes on to say, they didn't learn he had been pronounced dead inside until after the sheriff told the freaking media.
I've covered a number of these police shootings over the years here in the Tampa Bay area, and I can tell you this was a very emotionally charged night here at the hospital. We are, of course, at Bayfront Health near downtown St. Petersburg, and you had both friends and family members of the wounded officer, but also of that wounded suspect, all here together waiting to find out what was happening. At one entrance, a law enforcement family gathers to show support for a wounded officer. At the opposite entrance, the grandmother and loved ones of the 20-year-old shot by police.
No one has said anything to ourselves. We just want to know what his condition is.
Around 8:30, Pinellas Sheriff Bob Galtieri arrived to brief waiting family members in person.
It's important that Harris's family get information. They get it firsthand.
He would share the news. Many here already feared that 20-year-old Dominique Harris was dead.
I went through with them what we know, explained it to them, showed them a photograph of the gun with the shell casing there, so that they can understand what the physical evidence is, and that hopefully provides some, context.
Tears, disbelief, and lots of unanswered questions.
A family in that situation is one of the greatest voids for them is not knowing why he did what he did.
Sheriff Galtieri says the wounded officer...
And this is why people don't trust police or authoritative figures or hospitals for that nature and doctors, because they play this game with our lives as if it's the game of life, and they have every right to just move us around like pieces on the board trying to win. And that's not the case, y'all. So they didn't even tell the family he had expired until after the sheriff told the media. And I told you about the sheriff's department and Bobby Charles down in Louisiana, where the young man was referred to as being beaten like Emmett Till and being lynched allegedly. They didn't want to call an Amber Alert, the police department. Now, if they would have called an Amber Alert, baby, maybe that young man would still be alive. That's the shit I don't be liking, okay, guys? But if it was little Sally or little Susie running around here, they would have called that Amber Alert and shut shit down and had everybody out there looking for him, right? I'm just saying. Alright, guys, so basically the 6 St. Petersburg officers who fired their weapons, but before I do that, I want to let you guys know that there's a woman named Wheeler Bowman who lost her son to gun violence in 2008, and earlier this month lost her cousin says she remembers saying enough is enough 10 years ago. And it's funny, all these years later, she is still screaming, enough is enough, she said again. Can you guys see that? Alright, so then the 6 St. Petersburg officers who fired their weapons, Pinellas Sheriff County Bob Gutierrez, sheriff said, do not release the names of the 5 of the 6 St. Petersburg police officers who fired their weapons in Wednesday's fatal shootout because they work for the police department in this special investigative unit that basically goes around and picks up habitual offenders. Who's picking up the habitual police officers that keep offending the communities and the people thereof and the masses, right? So it goes on to say that the first officer was 36 years. He was a 36-year-old white man. I said these people in court or out of court never get a jury of peers, right? They never get judged or tried by their juries. It's always white, older European men. And of course, one of them we're going to hear is a white older man. And sometimes at a certain age, just like when it comes to driving, these readers, sometimes people just need to take the keys from people and say you can't drive no more. Just take the guns from people and say you can't be on the duty like that no more, okay? So it says he was involved with 2 firearm incidents. He has not been disciplined in the past 5 years. In 2007, he accidentally fired his weapon after being struck by a vehicle. The gun fired into the air and no one was injured. Okay, the peep game. In 2013, he and another officer shot and killed an armed murder suspect who fired at them. And they're always going to say they fire at them first. Police are scared. They're fearful. I told you when it comes to them having a weapon on them, just like that breathalyzer machine you got to blow into to see if you're drunk, there should be a machine on every police officer to see if they're in fear. Shut the gun down. Zap them. Do something to bring them back into their senses because they be far gone out. They be gone, y'all. Fear will either cause you to fight or flight. And whoever seen a cop run with a gun? I've always seen a cop get afraid and shoot, even when no one has them in jeopardy or threaten them, right? For the most part. So the second detective, a 37-year-old white man, he has been on the force for 12 years and has not been disciplined in the past 5 years. In 2008, he and another officer shot and killed what police officers called a vicious dog. The officer's actions were deemed justified, okay? Now, Officer 3, let me show you so you guys know what I'm talking about. This is Officer 1 and 2. Now, Officer 3, a 29-year-old black woman. She has been an officer for 2 years and has not been disciplined in the past 5 years. Well, how could she be disciplined in the last 5 years when she only been a police officer for 2, right? This is her first shooting incident as an officer. I wonder if she actually shot bullets. It was 50 of them shot, okay? 50 rounds. So, let me go ahead and show you her. Alright. So, for a 41-year-old white man, he has spent 13 years with the department. He has not been disciplined in the past 5 years, as 5 years matter, right? This is his first shooting incident as an officer. As an officer. What about not as an officer? Has he had any other shootings? Okay, listen to what these people are saying. So, detective, that was 4. And you can see 5. I'm going to read 5, okay? So, 5, a 49-year-old black man. He has spent 28 years on the police force. He has not been disciplined in the past 5 years, but probably disciplined prior to 5 years, maybe. In 2003, he and another officer fired their weapons at a robbery suspect who pointed a gun at them. Easy to say when there's no witness, right? So easy to say when there's no witness, especially if the man that they is dead. He can't tell his side of the story. And 9 times out of 10, people don't always want to believe criminals because, one, if you're committing a crime, most people think criminals are liars. And they don't always believe what people on trial or people being persecuted or apprehended or being arrested for whatever reasons. Sometimes people don't believe them. So it goes on to say the suspect survived and the shooting was deemed justified. In 2008, he exchanged gunfire with another robbery suspect. That suspect survived and the shooting was deemed justified. And remember, to some police officers, it's a game. They love the cat and mouse of it all. They love the Tom and Jerry of it all. The criminal and the police. Alright. So now there was one officer, Patrol Officer Richard Mckee. Now it says he's a 58-year-old white man. He has spent 28 years with the police department. He has been disciplined once in the past 5 years. He has been disciplined once in the past 5 years. He was given a 5-day suspension for improperly following procedures. He didn't follow procedures properly. In 2010, he accidentally fired a weapon he was clearing that had been seized using a search warrant. And again, some of these police are just devious. They steal the narcotics they're supposed to turn in. They steal the weapons, fire weapons, say it was an accident, probably used that weapon in the murder to kill somebody and just fired off a shot. Probably did something criminal with that weapon and, said, oh, it was just an accident. You know what I'm saying? So, guys, please, please, please pay attention. And I think that's it for now. We're going to go ahead and wrap this story up, guys. Any updates come up, anything else come in, let me see. I may go ahead. Let me see. Where is that video? I don't know where the video went to, guys. Is this it? No, that says arrow. Anyway, this is the gun they found in the car that they said the young brother was shooting. Let's see. Is there any more pictures I can kind of show you guys? Let's see. I think this is going to wrap it up, guys. This is Dominique Harris here. Young 20-year-old lost his life at the hands of the police. He didn't commit murder or suicide, I meant to say. This is a young man who lost his life. Allegedly, he was involved in the shooting that left someone paralyzed. But the parents of this young man think that Dominique Harris has something to do with his murder. There's a lot going down in St. Petersburg. This is Mayor Kreisman, and this is Chief Anthony Holloway. And, okay, let's see. Let's get into some of this here. Fair Use Act is being used, guys. So they're talking about the officer in the hospital. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. I think I gave you enough information about everything for you guys to form your own opinions. Go ahead and comment down below. I do appreciate it. Here's a little bit more.
us each and every day. We have a great foundation. I have a meeting scheduled with the NAACP on Monday. I have a meeting scheduled with the pastors. Again, we got to continue to educate, and as soon as we get the fact that we can release to the community, we're going to release those facts. As we said, we're very transparent. As soon as we can release that information, we're going to give it. We're not going to hold it close to the vest. We'll give it to you, and we'll give it to the community, so they're aware of what's going on in our city.
Alright, so he's going to make people aware of what's going on in his city. He actually stepped down, guys. So we're going to stop listening to that. God bless you, you all. You're watching ReligionWinked TV, and my spiritual ears stay. Whew, that was a lot to take in, right, y'all? What would you do in this situation? How do you feel about the 6 police officers, 5 that are on the SIU, the Special Investigation Unit, the one that was a patrol officer? How do you feel about them either still having their job? I think they were laid off. I think they were laid off in part 2. But how do you feel about Black Chief Police Chief Anthony Holloway saying, you know, how much of a progress is there when one of the police officers are in the hospital out of the 6 of them, and one black man is dead? There's no progress there. How have we grown? How do you feel about the one woman said 10 years ago in St. Petersburg, she was yelling, enough is enough with the gun violence and everything, and to be saying it 10 years later? How do you feel about Dominique Harris being involved with allegedly Marquis Scott's murder, and about Marquis Scott being involved with another shooting that left a man paralyzed? Do you think the shooting that Marquis Scott was involved with had anything to do with Dominique coming back and retaliating on him? And how do you feel about this whole task force that goes around and basically find habitual offenders, but yet somehow lead to police doing the most offensive, offending behavior ever, which is firing at a man 50 times, hitting him 38 times, and taking his life? All because at this point in time, forget all what we read in his past, he was being apprehended because he had body slammed a 15-year-old boy. The mother pressed charges, and they wanted him arrested. Should that lead to anybody's death? Guys, let me know down below. God bless you, and I hope to see you on the next live, upload, and or premiere. Thank you.